Hello and welcome to another episode of Attention Span Labs. I'm your host, Michael A. DiBaggio. We are continuing with the Sword of Cepheus review recommendation that I made in the last video that was released yesterday as I filmed this. And when I filmed it the first time, I initially intended to have everything in one video, but as I was editing the video for publication last night, I saw that we were already getting around the half-hour mark, and I didn't get into any of the character creation stuff. So this video is going to deal with character creation, but I'm also going to start and sort of insert before the character creation stuff that I already filmed a quick walkthrough of certain things in the book. I realized I didn't even open the book before character creation to show you what was in it, so I'm going to do that a bit. And we're going to start with talking about target numbers. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, this is a 2d6 system, and you're going to roll 2d6 and either add or subtract whatever bonuses or penalties you have. And those penalties, maybe things like cover or movement, and the bonuses will be things like primarily your skills, the relevant skill, and any kind of stat bonuses you have, which you will see more clearly when I do the character creation section. But let's talk about, one obvious question to ask is, where are these target numbers coming from? And the book is actually extremely helpful in this. So you can see, first of all, starting that your characteristic scores, it gives penalties, the minuses or the pluses, depending on how high your characteristic score is. And they are added, so say someone says they're going to jump into a sword fight with someone, and the DM will say, okay, well, roll your melee combat check, and melee combat may be governed by, depending on the DM's rule, either say dexterity or strength, depending on what you want to do. I would normally say strength, just to stay with the usual D&D conventions. But so if you have a strength +2 and a melee combat +1, then you're adding a total of 3 to your roll, which can be very significant. So, as I said, the target number system is given. You're given specific examples of what to use to help you along as the DM, so you don't have to guess and fudge everything. You can see here in the melee attack section that the base throw to hit in melee combat is an 8+. So on 2d6 you have to roll at least an 8, and that's going to be modified by your skill. Hopefully you have a melee combat skill. If you don't, you're going to be rolling a -3 because you have a default skill, which is something I'll cover in more detail in the character creation section. But there's also other things for different levels of cover. If the target's prone, if the light is dim, and in this one, if the target is aware and capable of dodging, you're going to have the target number is going to be modified by or your roll is going to be modified by the target's highest combat skill, which is something I use all the time, which reflects that if you're fighting against somebody who doesn't really know how to fight, it doesn't really matter how good they are, right? But if it doesn't matter. Sorry, it doesn't matter what they're doing. It matters how good they are. If they're an accomplished fighter, if you have you may have a level 1 or 2 bonus to melee combat, but the guy you're fighting is also level 2, so it's kind of a wash. But that's, again, if they're not surprised. So I use that all the time, and I do recommend you do use that. But there's many other examples of recommended target numbers and modifications to those target numbers. So I wrote some pages down here. 157. There's target numbers for when you're testing what the results of rolls are when you're testing mortal wounds, when you lose all of your hit points. There's ones for monster morale to show how they react. And these are not actual raw numbers you'd roll, but they're... so for instance, for the mortal wounds, the healer will throw the 2 dice and add medicine skill to any whatever bonuses they have. And that is modified. So if he rolls anything less than 7, they're dead. So you have to do at least better than average on there. And then there's wound tables you go into here, but there's also tables for poison, for disease. Let's see if I can find them here. Well, here's Chase's. We'll go to that in a minute. But for instance, for a disease, the more virulent diseases basically have diseases have a virulence rating, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's super deadly necessarily, but the more easily transmissible it is, I think, is sort of how they have this set up. The higher the target number they have to beat is, because they're more likely to succumb to it, and that would be modified by their endurance. And they can be treated or cured afterwards. As a real life example, my group was marching through the swamps for quite a long time. They wanted to avoid conflict and instead ran into a lot of conflict in the swamps. But they were in there for quite a while, and most of them developed malaria, and it took them weeks to recover. Nobody died of it, but it is possible to die of it. Same thing with poisons. It's governed by like the potency of the poison or the dose of it makes it higher to resist. Let's see. I want to have it here on page 66. There's target numbers for like repairing things, recruiting hirelings. The spell target numbers. As I mentioned in the previous video, the spells you actually have to roll for. You don't automatically do it, but the spells are divided into circles from 1 to 6, and they're in ascending order of difficulty and the more power usually. And so if you're casting a simple circle 1 spell, beginner's spell, you only have to roll a 7 or better. But by like level 6, you got to roll boxcars. Or if you don't have boxcars, if you have to have at least a sorcery skill to add to it. So if you had a sorcery skill of 1, you have to roll at least a 6 and a 5 on there to succeed in that. And if you didn't, you'd run into this spell mishap table, which I will also show you right now. Okay, and here's one of the spell casting mishap tables. As I said, it's a D66, which means you roll. If you're not familiar with that term, you roll 2d6 and you treat 1 as the 10s and 1 as the 1s. So it basically goes from 11 through 16, 21 through 26, and so forth on until you get to 66. And there's a lot of variety here. There's a lot of them say you mutate, throw on the mutation table. You open a portal to a dimension of oozes and draw the attention of 1d oozes. You witness unspeakable sights and lose your eyesight for 1d days. Restoration spell will reverse its effect. Your aura is ruptured. You forget a spell you know and will have to relearn it. You cause a major explosion. You and all characters within 5 meters must throw endurance 8 or suffer 4d damage, which will very likely kill most people. While casting your spell, you glimpse the essence of creation, something rather dangerous for mortals to see. You suffer from feeble mind for the spell. A restoration spell will reverse the effect. You are lost in time and space. This actually happened to one of our characters. The spell magic spell can bring you back immediately. Otherwise, you will reappear within 1d years. You do not age while out of the space-time continuum. You are quickly under the stress of sorcerer's powers. Add 3d years to your age. This may entail several aging throws per the character generation chapter. So there's a lot of really cool ones there. As I said, it's very fun if you're the DM. I don't know how fun it is if you're the player character suffering this, but so there's a corruption table. A lot of that is mutation too, like you begin to stutter, suffer DM -2 to all reaction rolls and social intercourse rolls. You develop a mild allergy to a common substance determined by the referee, such as milk or dog hair. You sneeze uncontrolled, some minor stuff up to major stuff. You grow vampiric fangs. You can only sustain yourself from the blood of other sapient beings. You must drink blood to 1 person per day or to sustain yourself in lieu of food. Some of them are actually pretty good. Like you gain low light vision, but your eyes now resemble those of a predatory cat. You will suffer -2 to the reaction of social interaction skill throws, but you can see in the dark, so may or may not be too bad. And here's the mutation table. Again, it's a D66. You shrink, you grow, your skin thickens, you gain natural armor, but you lose dexterity. Your eyes atrophy, but 2 thermosense organs grow on both sides of your neck. Your body degenerates grotesquely. You permanently lose 1d hit points from each of your strength, dex, and endurance. You become a delicate and unnaturally beautiful creature. Gain +1 to all reactions, social interaction skill throws, but lose 3 points each of strength and endurance to a minimum of 1. You grow sharp horns. You instantly age by 40 years. You grow a prehensile tail. You become sterile and may not have offspring by natural means. You mutate into an insectoid appearance. You gain a stench, which is attractive to predatory animals. The referee may increase the chance of random encounters with such predators. That's a good one. I wish one of my characters had, one of the player characters had rolled that up. And here's the list of spells. So they're broken down by circle, which implies a difficulty, and also white magic, gray magic, and black magic. White magic does not incur corruption penalties. If you get a certain amount of corruption points, you have to roll on that corruption table, which I showed before. Black magic automatically does. Gray magic could go either way. It depends on whether you use it to hurt people or use it for evil purposes. So as I said, magic is dangerous. It's both physically and morally corrupting. All right, let's check out the Bestiary. As I mentioned, one of the benefits of this book is that there's a pretty complete monster manual in there. I mean, it doesn't have all of the the full panoply of D&D characters, and it's actually mostly oriented towards real animals, but like prehistoric animals. Like there's lots about mammoths and glyptodonts and stuff like that. But there's giant ants, and there are ghosts, black pudding. You see there's a lot of stuff like bears and apes. There's dinosaurs, demons, and there's a D66 table. Should be a D666 table, but that would be a lot more entries. And it tells you what the demons do to you if they encounter you, or if you're not able to defeat them. Elementals, elephants, giant fish, ghouls, ghosts, hydras, horses, different kinds of oozes and slimes, mummies, pteranodons, different kinds of lizards, lizard men, purple worm, a good sperm whale. You'll see this the one way that they very quickly describe their stats. They'll give their weight, the kind of class of animal it is, how it hunts, where it lives, and then this line, which is basically Z3ZAF3. Okay, so if it's 1 or 0 through 9, that's just exactly what it means for their. So this is the order of strength, dexterity, endurance, intelligence, education, and social. And those are their skills. So if it's 3, his social's 3, his dexterity is 3, the sperm whale. But an A is 10, right? So the intelligence is 10, and then so on that line, a B would be 2. A B would be 11, C would be 12, D would be 13, E would be 14, F would be 15, and so on. So Z is what 9 plus 26, right? So 35. So he actually has like 35 strength, and that implies a huge bonus. So not just if he fights you in melee combat, he's also doing like huge damage. He's wrecking ships and so forth. There's rules here on magical research, generating treasure, magical items. There's plenty there's costs for in terms of money and time, how to create magical items. Treasure generation tables for rings, scrolls, rods and staves and wands, enchanted swords, enchanted armor, everything that you would want from your magic game. There's also a D66 table for miscellaneous magic items, and an appendix N called Appendix A. All right, you've seen the book. Enough of that now. Go out and buy it, or at least borrow a copy, and now on with the character creation. Okay, so I very quickly rolled up base stats for the 6, which are strength, dexterity, endurance, intelligence, education, sort of in place of wisdom, and it does mean a little bit different. Actually, your education level determines the number of skill ranks you can have. We'll get to that in a minute, and your the aforementioned social status. So instead of rolling 3d6, I just rolled these 2d6 in order. So this is the average then is going to be 2d6 is going to be 7, right? So that's about the mid range. So that's why the endurance of 6 is nothing but he's an above average character, He has +1s in everything except for endurance, which is normal, and but he's sort of lowborn. He has a -1 in his social stat. Okay, now those stats determine what kind of class we can pursue. So already at a social level of 4, he cannot. His career cannot be noble. And that is, sort of for obvious reason. So the qualification of a noble, it's automatic if your social skill is 10 or above. But he's ruled out. Basically the everything he has to test for everything, every other skill he wants to, every other career or class, if you will, that he wants to enter, except for commoner. And the commoner's qualification is automatic if it's social 10 or less. Okay, so what do you want to make him here? He has his highest is actually in intelligence education. So I'm gonna let's look at let's make him. We could make him a priest or a shaman or a scholar or something like that. Let's see. Yeah. So let's make him a scholar. Okay. There you go. Now you can see it. So the first thing you got to do is you got to qualify, and you have to roll an education roll of a 6 or better. After that, you have to see if you survive, and if you survive, you get your basic. You start rank 0, so you get a free skill, which in this case is rulership 1. And then you get all of you get these personal development ones the first time, right? And then after that you you do subsequent rolls. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to try to make this 6+ education roll, and what that means is our target number is 6 or better, and we roll 2d6. Because we have an 11, that's a +1, so we're adding +1 to our roll. Oh, okay, we failed. All right, so he can't be a scholar because he rolled a 3. And there you go, that's the end of the video. No, what happens then if you fail a roll, you become a commoner. So we're gonna go back to the commoner page and say for his first term he's a commoner, and that's automatic. Okay. First term commoner. His rank is rank 0, peasant. Can you see that? Okay, and he gets an automatic skill of animals 1. Okay. Now he has to see if he survives. He has to roll on 2d6, 3 or better on endurance. And his endurance has no modifier, so let's roll. And he rolled a 7, so he survives. He's able to survive the first term. And that means he gets everything under the personal development. Sorry, that's not, I didn't mean personal development, I mean service. So you start out, you get a level 0 in all your service skills. Now what's a level 0? So he already has animals 1, so he doesn't need a level 0 in that. But he gets riding 0, craft 0, streetwise 0, athletic 0, and craft. And you have to specify what craft that is. Okay. So what does a 0 mean? 0 means it's default. That means you can roll on it. And if your DM says, hey, roll for a craft and I need you to hit a 7, for instance, because you're building something. And if you have a 0, you just roll on modified and like, oh, I failed. Or let's say that was a 3 and say, oh, okay, I passed with a 7. That shows that you have a basic familiarity with the thing. You've done it before. You've done it enough to be sort of comfortable with it. You're not an expert. You're not a professional level at it by any means. But it means that you know enough to get some things done and not hurt yourself, basically. On the other hand, if you have, you can always attempt a skill even if you don't really have any stat level in it, in which case that would be like you basically don't list the skill at all. But what you do is you always have a large penalty that it's a -3 to whatever you roll. So that's why it's good to have that. Now, let's go back. I pointed out the personal development, and there's a skill called Jack of Trades, Jack O Trades, and that is what that allows you to do is you can have up to 3 levels in Jack of Trades. You know, I mean 1, 2, or 3. Okay, and for every level you have, you get better at doing things you don't know how to do. I think this could be actually extremely useful. And so what that means is when you attempt a skill that you don't have a skill level for, you don't have at least a 0 in. Say you have Jack of Trades 1. Then if you and you know I don't have the skill liaison, then I have to make a liaison roll. Then instead of rolling at -3, I roll at -2. And if I Jack of Trades 2, I roll at only a -1. If I have Jack of Trades 3, that means basically I have every skill at level 0. I don't have any penalties on skill I don't have, which could be very, very powerful, but it's hard to get. All right. So having done that, we passed. We got our basic service. So now we get to roll on a table. Okay, so we get to pick one of these categories to roll in. Actually, in this case, because it's our first turn, and on the first turn only, you roll twice. You can pick. Everybody can pick any of the first 3 categories, which are personal development, service, or specialist. But if you have an education of 8 or better, which we do, you can also roll on advanced education. So I get to roll twice, as I said. So I'm going, and this is, you roll 1 die for this one, right? So I'm going to pick 1 advanced education. Let's roll it now. And I got a 2. So the 2 in advanced education is leadership. So he now has a leadership 1. And it's not 0. Those are the service skills. So you get 0 from service skills that you have to learn by default. Now, that's not too bad, but he's going to try for a personal development because he wants that Jack of Trade. Let's see what we get. 6. And he got carousing instead. Now, carousing is basically boozing and partying. And that's actually important because it makes you a greater chance to be wealthy at the end. Okay. So now he's coming to the end of his 4-year term. He's going to see if he advances. And you can see the advancement roll for a commoner is intelligence 10 plus. Now he gains a +1 bonus to his intelligence. Just to remind you. That's a 2 die roll. And he rolled 7 + 1, 8. So he does not advance. Advancement is hard. If he would have advanced, he would become a rank 1 apprentice, okay? But he did not advance. So now we roll 2 dice on the events table down here. And these are those life events that help sketch out your character. 2 dice and 6. Okay. You can see 6 here says, conscripted. You are conscripted into the local nobles militia. Gain 1 level of recon, melee combat, archery, or athletics. So that's an or. You got to pick one. You must also throw endurance of 8+ to avoid a roll on the injury table. Okay. So let's do it. Let's give him melee combat 1. Okay. And now, to avoid an injury, since he was serving in the military, he has to throw an endurance of 8+. Now, he does not have an endurance bonus, so he's got to roll a raw 8 on these 2 die. And he does. He rolls an 8. Okay, so he does not have to make a roll on the injury table. All right, that's turn 1. Remember, he started at age 14, and now he's on to term 2. Which he will end at the age of 18 if he survives. Okay. So he doesn't want to be a commoner anymore. If he did, he would be able to re-enlist at 5+, right, which should be pretty easy to get. But instead, he's going to try for that scholar thing again because he knows he's a smart dude, and you know, he wants to be an alchemist. Okay. So now he has the qualification role, which is education 6+, but because he's switching careers, he has a penalty on that, right? So he basically has to roll a 7 or better, but he has a +1 here, so he's got to roll 7, and I'll be with you in a second. I have returned. My wife called me away to help change the baby's diaper. Gee, I hope I washed my hands. So I don't remember what I was doing. Oh, that's right. So I was, as I was trying to qualify for the scholar, which was an education roll of 6+, it was a -1 for switching careers, so a -1 penalty, right? Which means I would have had to actually roll a 7+ to get there. But it's a wash because he has a +1 bonus, right? So let's see if I qualify this time. And I do. With a 7, that's enough for the 6+. Okay, so he qualifies now. His second term is as a scholar. Okay, now he receives the service, if he doesn't already have them, at a higher level at 0. So he now has rulership 0, art 0, medicine 0. He's becoming a jack of all trades already. Liaison 0, investigation 0. Let me move this up. And science 0. But now he also does receive at level 0 rulership 1. Okay, so this 0 becomes a 1. All right. So now this is not it's his first term in this career, but it's not his first term in general, so he still only rolls once. So he's going to pick, say, he wants alchemy, right? He really wants to be an alchemist. So he's going to try and roll on the specialist. Hope he gets a 1. That's a 1 die. And oh, look, he got it. You see that? That's not even cheating. Okay, so he has alchemy 1. All right. Oh, actually, he had to roll survival here. Okay. He had to roll on it. So let me just assume he made it, but I'm going to roll on it just to satisfy everybody. An intelligence roll of 4+, but he has an intelligence bonus of +1, so he really only needs to roll a 3. And he does. He got boxcars. He definitely survived. Okay. So now he's going to roll on advancement, and that's an education of 9+. He has an education bonus of +1. So on 2d6, he has to roll. He has to roll at least an 8. Let's see if he does it. And look at that. It's an 8. He does. Okay, so he advances. So he moves to the next level. So he's still rank 1. All right. And the advancement also means he doesn't get a free skill, but he gets to roll once again. So, you know, he's going to, what looks interesting there? You know, he likes, he got to roll on that specialist again. So if he can get another level in alchemy, or maybe he's, you know, the medicine, you know, vital carousing. So let's go with specialist again. And he rolled a 2, which gives him another rank in rulership. Now, he already has a rulership of 1. So what comes next? Obviously, he gets a rulership of 2. I'm not going to explain what rulership is in this video. Some of these are obvious and some of them are not. Okay. But he survived. He advanced. Okay, so now he has to roll on the events table, and that's 2d throw. And it's he rolls a 7. So it says life event. Roll on the life event table. Okay, this could be good or bad. Skipping ahead to the end here. Now your life event depends on where you grew up here. So there's hinterland, village, city, and there's an unusual events. Okay. One thing we forgot to do is you get a certain a basic assortment of skills just by where you start out. But let's forget that for a minute. Let's say he started out life in the village. Okay, so he's going to roll on the village table. He rolled 2d6. And he rolls a 4. A romantic relationship ends badly. Gain an enemy. Okay, so put his life events over here. The first one we rolled was that he was conscripted. And 2, his girlfriend broke up with him. Or he probably did it to her. And she is now his enemy. She's the overly possessive type. Now, it doesn't have to be her, right? It could be her father. Could be her current husband, her brother, whatever, her mother, whatever. So, and that's it. So now at the end of this turn, so he's 18, and we're all right. But you know what? We want to go for a third term, so he wants to re-enlist as a scholar. So to re-enlist, he just has to throw a 5+. And does he do it? No, he fails. Okay, so that means he musters out. That means he's done progressing, but he has a lot of default skills. He has, he's a pretty good competency with animals, leadership, carousing. He can fight, and alchemy, and he's a good ruler, administrator. He's a good bookkeeper and a bureaucrat and so forth. He knows how to deal with the law. So, yeah. Now that we're mustering out, so he's completed 2 terms. The number of terms that you have determines the number of rolls you can make on the mustering out benefits table. So if you do 5 terms, this is why not only does having extra terms get you more skills and so forth, but you'd be able to roll on this table 5 times. Now you can roll on the gold. You can re-roll either gold or materials. You have to choose ahead of time, and you can roll on the gold a maximum of 3 times, right? But materials you can roll any time, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to roll 1 gold and 1 materials. So the first throw is a 6. The second throw is a 4. So the 6 is going to be for gold, and that's very good. So he gets a 200. But check this out. Because he has carousing 1, he knows how to charm people and gamble. He adds +1 to that roll, so he actually gets 250 gold to start. All right, so I'll write that down. 250 GP. Okay. Now he rolled a 4 on the materials, so he gets instruments. What is that? A saxophone? No, it's scientific instruments. So, or whatever you want them to be. I guess they could be music. Why not? I mean, he doesn't have a music skill, so I'm going to say they're scientific. They're alchemical instruments. So that's what he gets. And that's character creation without getting into either aging or dying of mishap. But you can see how it works. You can see, I think that it's much more fun. It is more involved. It takes a bit more time, but I think it's much more interesting than basic D&D character creation. You know exactly what he knows how to do. You have several. You know his relative status, that he advanced to be a scholar of some competency, right? You know that what he has, the equipment he has with him, how much gold. Now that's quite a bit of gold, and of course you would go on and then you would buy gear, because you need more than that to go out in the world. But you also know that he has an enemy, and that's a trait that felt like, so that you basically, what would happen is this player would come to me and say, hey, my character has an enemy and this is the situation, and I'd be like, okay. And then I could decide that, ahead of time that, it's his girlfriend and she's out to kill him. Or I could wait to an opportune time when the story develops in such a way that, he's really in a bind, and then I say, well, the enemy's actually her brother. While you're drunk at the bar, he comes in from the field and he finds you there. and he thrashes you, or he takes all your stuff, or he strips you naked and ties you to a pole and horsewhips you, whatever. So that's enemies come up all the time in this game. My characters in the Ice Age North America game have a lot of enemies. So one thing besides getting the gear, oh, and it does explain what all this stuff is in here, right? I'm not just, you can gain a ship, retainer, a mount, magic items, enemies, allies, right? You can gain a freehold. You can actually have land. You could, this kind of stuff. You got your holy symbol. All right. So there are. There's one other thing you can do. So after this is traits, and these are kind of like sort of feats and stuff. You get little bonuses you get. So all characters who survive their careers gain traits. So you gain one trait per every 3 turns in character generation. We didn't get 3 turns, but it's rounded up, so we gain at least 1, right? So the traits, like you can take an ally or whatever, but they will have certain ones will have prerequisite. Now let's say there's that battle mage skill I mentioned before. You can do sorcery in combat, right? Hastily cast spell and everything. But let's say he has a skill in animals. So let's say he's developed kind of animal empathy. So he has beast friendship. It says the character is well versed in the natural world when using the animals or science skill, which he has, both of those, to identify flora or fauna. The player throws 3 dice and picks the highest 2. That's basically rolling with advantage. Furthermore, the character may take animals as his loyal retainers and gain a modifier +2. All right, so there you go. That's character creation with the Sword of Cepheus system. I hope you found it interesting. I hope that has encouraged you to give it a try. I hope you like this video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. And subscribe if you're not subscribed. Like most channels, like 2/3 of my viewers are not subscribed. What does that mean to me? Absolutely nothing. It's just, it's pure ego stroke, though. I like to know that people like what I put out, and that they enjoy these videos, because otherwise, what am I doing making them? But I hope you try the system. The people that make it are really cool. The whole Cepheus system is a good thing to get into, whether you're doing fantasy or sci-fi, but I really like this. I've run a pretty long-running campaign with this. I hope you like it. If you are a fan of Cepheus, if you played Sword of Cepheus, let me know in the comments. If you have other Cepheus-related things or any other role-playing related things you'd like me to cover, send me a message or drop me a line in the comments. Also, I just started a new Gilded, and for a limited time, it's open to everyone. After that, it will only be open to my backers on locals. But thank you very much for spending this amount of however long this video is with me today. Thank you for sticking with me through interruptions, and you have a wonderful and blessed day. Attention Span Labs, signing off.